Hello, 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 Graffiti Wars newsletter happening in the middle of the year. What is it? It's going on July 15th. So thank you everybody for being my patron saints on this project. And I'm moving along and I thought I'd show you the next part of what's happening here. What I'd love to show you is another character. So kind of each one of these now is kind of fleshing out characters. And so this character is the girl. And in the beginning, her name was Graffiti Girl. She's one of the two heroes in the project. And so, you know, ideas pop in, visions, things like that. And what I did here was start looking for reference. So throughout the whole thing, I am looking for reference and oh gosh, all this stuff showing up here that I don't want. Okay, great. Just filling up files and folders of reference. Sorry. And graffiti, her name turned into Birde. It was Star for a little bit. And she's a very tough character. And, good stories have backstories to everything and flush things out. And this was one of the characters in a movie that I started to like some of her clothing and her hair and face. And instead of like having a model, I started to look at this woman as a model. And then I actually bought the DVDs, and over time then have used her face and sometimes her clothes and body type in my piece. And so it's just really looking at different face paintings, different modeling. She's you don't know it until later, but it says that she looks native. She's got an earring that's hanging. She's got a feather earring that's hanging off of her. Not that big, of course. That's a beautiful eagle feather. Um, so, how do you paint and draw a beautiful woman? And how do you, in all these different, the biggest challenge in this book project was how do I keep a character flowing throughout the whole book that is recognizable? So I've never done that before. And the truth is it was super intimidating. But the thing is, you just don't stop. You don't stop. So one of the scenes I need, the woman with hair blowing. So here's a reference. I got a friend of mine to model for me, which was great. So that was, just getting reference. So, I've got her in variety of kind of clothes, Burning Man-esque. So like here, this was one of the great shots. So, it's just that shot, and then that shot turns into this on the first book, right? So it goes from here into here. And there I've got the sexiest scene in the whole book is when she leans over and you can see her thong underwear. So there I've got her, drawn. And part of these drawings are really loose and really, I consider them, bad drawings, it's almost like, but I'm just kind of trying things out and going for it. And this was this technique that I discovered that worked for me, where I would put tracing paper over top of reference, and then I would draw it really loose, and then I would add water, and before the pen dried, it would turn into a watercolor drawing. So those were things that were just helpful over time. And it's really just draw more, draw more, draw more. and then over time seeing what could possibly not work. There she is with her feather. And so here these guys are. Actually, these guys got married, which is super sweet. And I used him for my Hiro model. And then there's the drawing that I did of them. And then there it is in the book. Right, different. She's looking at him drawing, this is in book 1. So, I've got to this point where I kind of did a rough drawing, feather in her as an earring. So that's kind of like how we recognize that it's her, one of the ways. And, I've got her, the first book, she's like sliding in on her knees with 2 spray cans in her hands. And, she's working on this wall. And this is kind of the first time we see her. And, rough drawing, one of those pen things. Then I put that on top of a reference that I have. So this is in the second book. So here's the second book where it's being worked on. So she's out in the since she's a time traveler, this book doesn't live in a sequence. It kind of moves around. So in the second book, when it begins off, she's out photographing on the base, and then something happens and she becomes kind of a time traveler, and she's placed in another time and space. But this level of loose drawing is kind of what I wanted to get to. That worked. This is back to the first book where it's where this beast is actually tracking her. So I have this out of sequence. The beast follows her down this abandoned alley, and that's where we find her spray painting. And then as the beast jumps onto her, she goes through the wall into another time and space. And she actually comes out the other side of the wall, and here's the beast, tearing through the wall trying to get to her, which is in another time and another space. And then she sees Hiro, and he's doing a piece of artwork that she's blown away by, really impressed. And that's the first time they meet. And then we get to see that her name's Birde, and I actually have her being, she's kind of, I guess to everybody's me. But I'm using my artwork and my bird pieces as her artwork as a graffiti artist, which I think is pretty cool. Later on, she kind of tricks Hiro into this abandoned military hospital, and she sends him back into time for a bunch of reasons. And I love this. She says, I'm sorry for the pain and suffering I'm about to cause you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. I love you. And he says, this can't be good. That's kind of one of my favorite lines. And so then this is the second book where we see her. She's out photographing on the base, and she comes across this bunker house that's got nuclear stuff, and part of the story happens, and this thing blows up, and she gets blown out into another time. So this is kind of a placeholder art. One is that it's right down the middle of the book, so I will move her and draw her a little bit better, but I like kind of this silhouette stuff that's been happening. So then she is talking to Bernie, another time traveler he's a dual character in the story. And sometimes all they're doing is having conversations. She's talking and he's talking back. And, or he's talking about war, and she just says, war? And so this is the second book, how this is happening. She's now trying to find Hiro. She kind of stuck him in another time and space. Basically, she put him in a psych hospital so he could be an artist and make some art that the future needed. But she's trying to find him. She knows where he is, but not when. So she actually goes through time by making graffiti pieces. Those are the portals. And she has shown up in the place that used to be these burnt out, that used to be the military hospital, but then it's burnt out, and or it's a Target shopping center, or it's actually, she goes back so far that it's just a Native American woman, an Indian woman, and no Westerns. And then at the very end of the second book is that she finally finds Hiro, but he's in a psych hospital and he's going crazy, and she's determined, committed to save him. So that's the end of that character. Nice short Graffiti Wars intro and everything. So thanks again. Appreciate everybody.